All right, welcome back to the Plays with Cars YouTube channel. I'm Michael, and we're going to look at my AMC collection more because you guys asked for it. First up, the 1/18 scale diecast. So if you haven't seen, I made a video about my AMC diecast collection. I'm thinking about selling it, and I posted it, and whatnot. But I actually got a lot of requests on social media for a closer look at the collection, but also like some history of what some of the stuff is. Like I said, I do have a lot of really rare pieces, and just people that are into the big cars don't necessarily know things about the collectibles. So just spreading some knowledge here, showing what is out there and available so that if you decide you want to collect any of these for yourself, you can go in better informed. So these are 1/18th scale American Motors AMXs. They were made originally by AMT Ertl, who was bought out by Auto World, and are now sold under the Auto World banner, but they are the same car, they are the same casting, and there are multiple versions of this car, and we're going to talk about all of them. So in February of 1988, during the Daytona Spring Spectacular Car Show, there was a special event put on called the Return to Daytona, because the 2C AMX made its debut in Daytona, Florida in 1968. And so it had been 30 years later, and they tried to get as many AMXs as possible to the show, and it was a fantastic success at the time. And at this show were representatives from AMT Ertl, who did a ton of measurements of cars and also learned about the differences between the years, which was brought into the actual diecasts. This is one of the first releases, and this is a 1968 model, and as you can see here in the interior, you have the correct 68 dash pad or crash pad over the gauges with no hood, and there in the center console area you can see underneath the radio speaker is the hooded gauges for the Go Pack, which came with the stripes from the factory. You also have your 4-speed on the floor and your proper 68 door panels with the little arrow. Now, I do want you to notice that this is an AMT Ertl version. This is one of the originals from the 90s or 2000s, and things like the little seat back lever here are just molded in the plastic. They are not detailed out, and we'll talk about that when we get into the newer ones from Auto World. Also underneath the hood here you have a 390 AMC V8, and notice it is EN66 AMC blue, but it is missing the chrome valve covers, and the air cleaner lid is painted silver instead of chrome. But you do have really good details here. Notice the radiator support brackets. You've got a power steering pump, power disc brakes, your upper radiator hose, and your little coolant crossover hose that's often missing from things. Pretty well detailed cars. Underneath, I want to point out that there is a fully functional steering system that looks like the original. All of the factory suspension is present and looking correct, and you'll notice that the 4-speed transmission is actually a 4-speed transmission. This is a really cool thing that they did. The automatic cars have the actual automatic transmission in them. This particular car also features the Sidewinder tailpipes, and yeah, they are all on there. They don't put the rest of the tailpipes in the car, so they are trying to stay as accurate as they can to each option. Now here's a fun fact. The original Ertl cars that were not special edition, the trunks don't open. Even though it is a completely separate piece, they are actually screwed shut from the factory and they do not open. That was a mark of special edition cars like this black one here. This is one of the original special editions during the AMT Ertl years, and you can see the trunk opens and it has the spare tire in it with the inflator kit, which is a really cool thing. Otherwise, your special editions were just paint schemes. This black one is actually one of the more common special editions to find. There is a white one that gets mistaken a lot because they made a factory white one with black stripes, but they also made a white one with white bumpers, and that one is the special edition one. Again, you could tell by the opening trunk lid. But again, you have a 1968 model here, 390 4-speed, and the same details as the other car that I just showed you. Although this one has a different color interior, but you're still getting the 68 crash pad, the Go Pack gauges. This particular one is an automatic on the floor, so I could show you the difference on that, but it still has the 68 door panels. And there we go, there's the automatic transmission that I told you about, and then this one has the factory dual exhaust setup on it, so you'll notice the dual exhaust instead of the side pipes. So yeah, during that Return to Daytona show, which I was at, and some of my family members were judges and stuff, I remember walking around with the representatives from the company and pointing out the differences between the 68s and the 69s to them so that they understood how to make the cars accurate. They looked at cars that were like really super amazing restorations, but they also looked at cars that were all factory original. They were really trying hard to get the details right, and I think they knocked it out of the park. You have to remember, diecast stuff, especially 1/18 scale in the 90s and early 2000s, was really bad. You often got cars where their overall proportions were just really off. You got details that were super wrong, even on things that people like really knew. 67 and 68 Camaros were just a disaster back then. You'd have vent windows on 68s, you'd have wrong grills on things. They were all over the place. So this was a concerted effort from a large company to do it right, to get it right on this little independent automaker, and they really did. They knocked it out of the park. Now, a little bit more backstory. At the time, there was a 1/64th scale diecast maker called Playing Mantis. Playing Mantis owned Johnny Lightning. It was run by this gentleman, I believe his name is Rob Lowe. I might have that wrong. But this gentleman loved Johnny Lightnings as a kid, restarted the company, started Playing Mantis, and started just knocking it out of the park with the 1/64th scale stuff. Meanwhile, AMT and Ertl were part of this kind of bigger conglomerate, and things were going on. As the years progressed, AMT Ertl actually went close to going out of business, and Johnny Lightning and Playing Mantis got bigger and bigger, and they became round two, and they started buying up other companies, including Racing Champions and eventually AMT Ertl. Now, all of them are under one umbrella called Auto World, and Auto World is pretty amazing. It's still run by the same guy. Maybe it's Tom Lowe. But it's still run by the same guy. They do an amazing job. They make slot cars and model cars and diecast cars and big diecast cars and just kind of everything cool and hobby under the sun. And they really do a good job with it, and their prices are really reasonable even to this day. But that means that the old AMT Ertl molds are still being used on the new Auto World versions of these AMXs, but there's been a lot of upgrades. So this light green AMX here is one of the newest Auto World releases, and we'll compare it to one of the earliest AMT Ertls like I was showing you earlier. So you remember, you notice in here that the seat bracket there was painted. Here in the Auto World version, it is painted silver. It actually looks like the real car instead of just being there. You'll also notice there is a door tag here on the door that looks like the original, which is a feature not found in the AMT Ertl. But probably the biggest difference that you'll notice once you've seen it is that the AMT Ertls did not paint the stainless trim around the windshield, side windows, or back window of the car. In fact, the only trim you get are the actual chrome bumpers, the AMX roundel, and the little piece here on the quarter window. These just never got detailed and painted. On the Auto World, they are all detailed. You see all the stainless is painted silver around the back window, around the drip rails, and around the windshield. So the new Auto World versions are more highly detailed than the original. And check this out, under the hood, real chrome valve covers and chrome air cleaner lid, just like a 390 is supposed to have. Also notice this particular car does not have power steering. All of the other features, however, are still there, including the heater crossover hose and the upper radiator hose and your power disc brakes, and they've even included the shock tower sticker now. Very cool. You'll also notice the original AMT Ertls do not have an antenna. If anything, there's kind of these molded in bumps sometimes, but here on the Auto World you have one, and it's actually made of metal. This thing is really sharp. It will poke you, so be careful with those. Underneath is more of the same story. The original Ertl is all plain black plastic. Look at the Auto World. They actually have the overspray, the correct factory overspray for the unibody car along both sides here. Very well done. Very cool. Now, one thing Johnny Lightning was famous for was individually numbering their cars, which is something that has been brought over to Auto World now, and is just like, I don't know, a really cool extra thing. This thing was 3 too far away from being car number 390, which would have made it like extra cool. Now, crucially, almost all Auto World cars, at least every one I have touched, has the opening trunk. Now, they don't all have the spare tire in them like the special edition AMT Ertls, but at least they made the trunk functional and didn't bolt them shut. So this is a good way to tell the Auto World versus the original AMT Ertls along with your silver trim. Now, in addition to doing lots of different factory color schemes during the AMT Ertl days, they also did street machine versions. They had some that were lighter with just kind of wheels and tires like Krager's or these torque thrusts, but they even had some that had some super stock AMX parts on them that were pretty cool. And Auto World has been kind of continuing that tradition. They do these more factory colors, and they also do kind of wilder ones, or ones that are more fantastical, like this blue, white, and red. It's really beautiful, and it's a really cool AMC paint scheme, but obviously no AMX came like this from the factory, but it makes for a really fun diecast. Now, both eras feature big bad colors. AMT Ertl made all three of them: Big Bad Blue, Big Bad Orange, and Big Bad Green. So far, Auto World has only released the orange and the green. The green you can find everywhere. This orange is incredibly hard to come by, and they haven't made a blue yet. So far, if you want a Big Bad Blue, you can only get the older ones. Notice that they do, however, have the painted bumpers like they're supposed to. Which, speaking of super stocks, let's talk about them. This one right here is actually incredibly rare. This is the entire frost white version. This is one of the kind of first Auto World, last Ertl branded ones out there. And yeah, they did not make very many of them, and they are very hard to come by. I found one listing on eBay for like 360 bucks, and that was coming out of Japan. Yeah, there really hasn't been a lot sold. So if you want to be a completionist, prepare to shell out some money for some of these 1/18ths. They did also make a red, white, and blue super stock, which is probably my favorite one because it's just the factory paint scheme without any of the sponsors or other things on it. Very, very cool looking car. But it all started here. This was actually Supercar Collectibles, which was a separate company, commissioned AMT Ertl to make a super stock version that they sold as Shirley Shahan's Drag On Lady. And again, this one is incredibly rare. It is the original 1969 paint job from the Drag On Lady, and it has all the correct super stock parts. It's got the, the hood scoop and the 4-speed and all that good stuff. And yeah, after that, then AMT Ertl decided that they would start making some super stock since they had modified a mold, and we got Pete's Patriot. This one is actually the most common one. It's pretty easy to find this one for around 50 bucks. So if you do want a super stock, there is an option out there from back in the old AMT Ertl days. And then Auto World has picked them back up mightily. You've got the AMX 1 here from Nat Thompson. Very well detailed and done, and has the different red, white, and blue paint scheme from the factory, just like the real AMX one. They also did the Kim Nagel car. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but it is correct in all of its paint scheme glory with the red, white, and blue stripes and the little pinstripes on the shark fins on the hood, which are very, very, very cool. And then you have the new Drag On Lady. I actually did a whole video on this car, taking it out and reviewing it. I'm not in love with this one because this was after the Shahans modified their car to a 70, and then NHRA rolled that rule back, and the cars were put back to 68.9s, except for they left the tail panel a 70. It was too much to go in there and re-weld all the metal to put the 68.9 taillights in, and I thought this would have been a great opportunity to start modifying one of their molds to be a 70 AMX. They could have made the one Frankenstein car and then modified the nose of it and started making 70s, because that is the only year that has never been represented by any scale diecast, which is a shame because the 70 is a gorgeous AMX. But yeah, so this is the later paint scheme version of the Drag On Lady. And this is actually the complete collection of super stocks that were actual super stocks. Again, there's at least one of the old AMT Ertls. It's white with like a 70 style blackout with a super stock scoop, but it actually has an automatic in it. So it's clearly just a street machine. But yeah, your actual super stocks, this is all of them. The two versions of the Drag On Lady, Pete's Patriot, the Nagel car, AMX1, and your red, white, and blue, and your frost white. Now, this is by no means a complete collection overall. AMT Ertl made over 25 different paint schemes alone before Auto World ever even got involved. They had a special edition red one with red bumpers that was kind of like a hot rod car, the white one with white bumpers that I talked about, and then they made a bunch of different factory schemes. Like I said, all three big bad colors. There was a gold, there were a couple of different greens, there were a couple of different reds with chrome bumpers that were the real cars. They really did a good job trying to make lots of different years and variations between automatic or 4-speed, 68 and 69, and the different colors that were available in those years. A lot of those are fairly common and found, for not too much money. So if you wanted to collect all of the old AMT Ertl versions, they are still out there. They made quite a bit of them. They were very, very popular when they came out. And there are a few special editions, but nothing really too terribly hard to find outside of the super stocks. Now, once you get into the end of the Ertl era and the beginning of the Auto World era, they get pricier. There were some in there that just weren't produced very long or in very large numbers until Auto World really got them, kind of up and going. And so some of these go for really, really insane amounts of money. So, like I said, if you're a completionist collector, be prepared. The 1/18th scale market can be kind of brutal when it comes to getting every single variation. But if you just want one, or you want one that's like close to your car, there should be enough produced in all the different colors and in all the different years and variations over the last 25 years, almost 30 years now, that you should be able to find one close enough to your car, one that you like, without having to spend more than about $50 on it, even brand new from Auto World. All right, I hope you've liked this look at my 1/18th scale collection, as well as the history of the casting itself and the companies. If you have any questions about any particular ones, or if they made a certain color or whatnot, throw them down in the comments. I'm happy to answer them. I may not own all of them, but I have certainly seen all of them. I know which ones, were produced and exist and stuff, so I can help you answer, what you're looking for. Now, the cool thing about these is they are screwed together. They're not glued together. So if you own a combination of AMX that they didn't make, you can theoretically buy the right color car, the right interior car, the right, 4-speed or automatic, whatnot, and unscrew them and glue, screw them all back together and make a Frankenstein that matches your real car. It's something that I've actually helped do quite a few years ago now, but I remember it being not terribly difficult when I did it back in the day. I can't imagine it's any harder now. But yeah, so it's pretty possible to like mix and match these if there's not like the exact perfect version of yours. But again, if you're just looking for something close enough, they're really fun to collect, have in the box, have in the garage with your car. All right, that's going to do it for this video. The next one, I will look at some of the other castings. Maybe we'll get into the 1/64th scale stuff and talk about your regular Hot Wheels size cars. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it when I upload it, and I'll catch you in that video. Take care.